Welcome back, Chiefs Kingdom. We have a great show for you today as the Chiefs are ramping up their preparations to get into Wild Card Weekend. I'm excited about it. I'm going to get to watch it from Phoenix. We're going to get into the details and what I'm going to see on the television, what you're going to see on the television, and what Matt's going to tell us that I probably took for granted. Welcome to Locked On Chiefs.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Matt, Derrick, editor-in-chief of ChiefsDigest.com. How are you, sir?
I am doing pretty good, Ryan. How about yourself?
Hey, it's a Tuesday and I'm still breathing. It's all right. I feel good about that.
We're all just day to day, Ryan.
Right? Yep. Hey, sorry, EB. I'm going to continue that theme because everybody's day to day. But one thing that I feel like we need to get a little bit more updates on, and we'll just jump right into the news. It looks like snaking and weaving, they've dodged some bullets here. How do you feel about the updates and the health of this roster right now for Wildcard Weekend?
Yeah, I mean, unless Andy Reid is sandbagging us, Chiefs are pretty healthy shape as far as going into the postseason. Reasonable chance that on Wednesday they could have everybody practicing in some form. I mean, we'll see about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think that's probably the biggest question mark is where his progress is. But Andy on Monday certainly seemed pretty optimistic about that. And the expectation all along was that this was the week most likely for him to return. Really after that, I mean, the big question is Tyreek Hill and that heel. I mean, if anything, it's going to be a discomfort more than the really injury concerns that the Chiefs have with it. If he gets a couple of days of rest, maybe they take it easy on him. So Wednesday is certainly going to be a light practice. You know, nothing that he's going to drive the team too hard. So nothing to really take out of, Wednesday's practice to me. Thursday will be the real test to see how hard he'll end up pushing it then. But if he's a full participant on Thursday and Friday, then I don't think you have any concerns about Hill going into the game.
I think you have to feel pretty good about that as well. What we see from Lucas Niang is maybe more of a question mark for me. Do you have any feel about where that is and if we expect to see Wiley continue right now, as we understand it, at the right tackle spot?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that would change with me with Andrew Wiley being in that spot. I mean, if anything, the question is just, what's going to be the backup situation behind him? That is the real question. I mean, if you were to lose Orlando Brown, I don't think there's any doubt. Joe Thuney's kicking outside. But if Andrew Wiley goes down, who's your backup at right tackle? I might certainly based on the last game, I think you can make the case that the Chiefs might be considering Kyle Long. Since Prince Tega Wanongo was not active for that game, but he's the other tackle option. Certainly there's no indication at this point that Mike Remmers is coming back. I mean, he could, but he hasn't been designated to return yet. Back injuries for offensive linemen never seem to end well in season. Right. So, and Andy Reid, the last time we talked to him, just said that Remmers was making progress, but didn't give any indication that he was close to coming back.
And this week, it's kind of a standard week at this point, right? With the Sunday night game, it was announced there the later slot on Sunday. They dodged the Monday night of, the super fantabulous extra weekend of wild cards. This kind of falls in line to where I'd hoped that they would end up. I thought maybe by putting them on the Saturday game last week that they might get another Saturday slate, which I was kind of hoping for the next round to have that extra day. But do you see this as an advantage? Is this just the cost of doing business? Is there any concern about the way this schedule is landing right now?
No, not a big concern to me. I mean, obviously the biggest drawback would be that if you draw the Sunday slot this week, then you win, then maybe you're playing in a Saturday slot next week and it ends up with a short week. But hey, this is at least consistent. I mean, the Chiefs now have actually 8 days between games, so that's an advantage for, I think, going into the wild card game. So it's a grab bag. I mean, the one thing is that I don't think anybody wants to play in that Monday night wild card game. So if you avoid that, that's a huge victory in and of itself.
You have won, and evidently so has my phone because it doesn't usually go off in the middle of the show. Apologies, folks. Sometimes the tech wins is what I've determined. And
no, I'm sneezing
like this. See, it's all contagious. at the end of the day, the team's faring better than we are right this second. But the team is what it is right now. And there's a couple of questions about what has happened since Black Monday and then the firing of coaches around the league and what's changing here, GMs as well. We're going to get into that a little bit before we start turning our eyes to what's going to come this weekend. We'll do that right after this. No matter what your New Year's resolution is this year, it's about getting fit or getting healthier, whichever you want. Make sure that you enjoy and add Built Bar to your plan. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. They're incredible in all kinds of different flavors, and they make them even better. Use it as your resolution this year because it tastes so good. It takes you so far in what you want to do. It's not chalky or waxy or anything negative. It allows you to get the protein that you need, all the macros that you need without having to spend a whole lot of calories there and without having to worry about what the ingredients are that you're ingesting. They're covered in 100% chocolate, and they cover all kinds of things, generally around 130 to 150 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, 17 grams of protein on average. And there's all kinds of flavors for every palate out there. Whether it's post-workout or filling in for a meal, you can find something that you want. I personally love all the cookie dough ones as well as the coconut-based flavors. And there's all kinds of new ones always lighting off every week. All you have to do is go to built.com and use the promo code. You get 15% off of your order. The promo code is LOCKED15 for Locked On Network, and that's 15% off of your order at built.com. Now, Matt, a little bit of surprise. Chris and I talked about the Brian Flores firing yesterday. That one was out of the blue. The Vic Fangio thing wasn't. Mike Zimmer wasn't. Like, we had these kind of concepts. But in the wake of these firings, there's already been some talk about Eric Bieniemy interviewing for Denver, some interest elsewhere. Ryan Poles has already gotten some interest in terms of the GM in New York. I expect Mike Borgonzi to be on that track. Like right now, this week, what does that do? Again, with the extra day, maybe this is a good week to have that interest.
Yeah, it probably is. I mean, and we'll see how the Chiefs and Eric Bieniemy end up handling it. I mean, that's probably the biggest question mark. I don't think it's really that impactful for the front office guys who might be entertaining some interviews. And to me, I mean, the surprising thing is, frankly, that the Chiefs have not been rated the last couple of years. They, by all rights, by the success that they've had and the candidates that they have, they should have been rated. So, I mean, to me, it's just a matter of time. So I think the Chiefs absolutely have to be prepared to lose a couple of people this year. And EB is going to be the biggest focus of that. I know that Colorado, Denver, that's a job that he covets. And I certainly expect that he's going to put a full-throated effort into that one. I mean, if the Broncos want to talk to him, he's definitely going to be trying to put his best case forward there. That's a job that he definitely wants, and I think he'd be a good fit for it. I mean, honestly, I think he'd probably be a good fit in Minnesota too. And I don't think there's any doubt that now there's some jobs. I mean, hey, the Jaguars already passed on Eric Bieniemy once, so are they going to come back and interview him again? I mean, there might be some teams that have passed on their EB in the past, and maybe they don't consider him this time around. But frankly, if you're hiring a coach right now and Bieniemy is not on your list, throw out your list. I mean, he should absolutely be on everybody's interview list.
Especially for the debacle that the Jaguars have gone through for the last year. Even if you weren't satisfied with where Eric Bieniemy was a year ago, he's had another year. If you're looking for that incremental uptick in what you're expecting from him as a head coach or the staff that he could put together, et cetera, which I think is intriguing right now for one thing that we'll talk about in a second, I would think a team like the Jaguars had better turn around and talk to him again and get that second shot at a conversation about the future.
Well, and that's what's intriguing to me, because I think I saw this, a quote connected with the Dolphins job, which also wouldn't necessarily be a bad place for EB. But I mean, honestly, I think almost any place would be a good fit for EB. Although I still do not go if it opens and is offered, do not go to Houston. That's the one job I'll still say. Do not touch the Texans. But I saw it mentioned with the Dolphins are looking for a professional organization, to just come in and rebuild the base of the organization in a professional, new change. And Jacksonville needs that too. There's a few teams that looks like they're retaining their coaches, New York, the Giants, that need to do that too. I mean, and that's the thing. Even if EB doesn't come in and win with a team, he's going to give them a professional base. because he's learned organization from Andy Reid. He's going to come in. He's going to be able to establish leadership. He's going to be able to set expectations and tones that even if it doesn't result in wins, and even if it doesn't work out, I think your franchise is going to be a better place for having had Eric Bieniemy there than not. I mean, there's a lot of coaches, and we've seen it around the league, and we're continuing to see it. You hire them, and not only do they not leave the place better, they burn the place to the ground. And like I said, EB's not that kind of guy. I mean, even if he goes somewhere and he doesn't win, I still think that there's a lot of places that he would make better just by restructuring the organization and changing expectations and instilling new leadership approaches.
Well, I hinted at, and I want to get into this because I think right now is an optimal time for Eric Bieniemy, and I'm making some assumptions here, but let me lay this out for you and see if it makes sense. Because if you're somebody that is concerned about what a coach who is in one of the most high-powered offenses in the league, one of the biggest presentations, and I don't know that the fans always think about this, is when you interview for a head coaching job, it's about what are you going to do to change that culture? What kind of staff are you going to bring? Right now, there's an easy connection to make. Matt Nagy is not going to get another head coaching offer. I am 99.9% sure of that. So why not try to roll that up and say, listen, Matt, you want to come be an OC? If I can take over an organization, you can help me. We've worked together in the past successfully. We've dealt with a young quarterback and his emergence into what they think can be a generational talent, much like you have in Lawrence down there in Jacksonville. Like, does this debacle for Matt Nagy, do you think there's a connection there that could be real? And do you think that it helps Eric Bieniemy as it stands for a staff?
Yeah, I do think that that's a possibility because, Matt Nagy is absolutely a great offensive mind. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Whatever happened in Chicago, and honestly, I mean, I think that his biggest mistake in Chicago was just simply having maybe the hubris, but maybe also just the wanting a head coaching job to say, I can win with Mitch Trubisky. I mean, that was just a bad mistake from day one. Any other quarterback in the world, I mean, maybe Matt makes it work, and certainly maybe the quarterback of his choosing. But yeah, I don't think there's any doubt to me. I mean, that would be a great duo, especially because I think that it would certainly help wherever EB goes to have an offensive coordinator that he knows and trusts so that he can work on building an organization. Because I don't think, I mean, if he goes to a place that's ready to win, like Minnesota, and I have actually thought that a veteran team that's ready to win would be a great fit for Eric Bieniemy because, I think he's the kind of guy that if a team just needs a new voice and needs just somebody to come in and kind of motivate everybody to go into a new direction, that's, I think, one of his best traits. So I could certainly see him being a guy that could come in and step in and immediately take over a veteran-laden team that just needs a new direction, maybe more so than, rebuilding with a youth movement somewhere else. But regardless of where he goes, I mean, I think having an OC that he trusts would be a big deal, and I think Matt would be perfect there. And then again, I mean, I can also see the other argument, which is, and the other possibility, which is that if EB moves on, the most likely candidate for an offensive coordinator in Kansas City is Mike Kafka. And the one thing that he lacks is experience. So what better than to have as your Brad Childress in Kansas City, like Brad Childress was the Matt Nagy
coordinator,
than to be that guy to Mike Kafka. I mean, so I can certainly see there being a couple of great places for Matt to land.
I'm glad you brought that up because I wasn't going to go there. So now I can say
I'm absolutely going there.
Because I agree with you. I think that's an easy connection to make too. I think, like you said, Matt Nagy might have jumped into the deep end of the pool a little bit quicker than in retrospect he should have. So what better way to help him get back on that horse and get back to another head coaching position than to put him back where he started with Andy and let that all come to pass while mentoring Kafka. I love that idea. And just one note, do you think that I don't know that Cousins will be the quarterback in Minnesota much longer, but B, do you think that roster in particular, for the way that we know that EB is, chopping wood and everything else that has to get done, could the Zimmer fatigue in Minnesota kind of put the kibosh on Eric becoming that leader?
I don't know, because I mean, I kind of see them being, different types of guys, and maybe it would
Yep.
be a little bit about, we don't know what kind of a defensive minded coach that Eric Bieniemy would be, and who would be his defensive coordinator. I know he's got a short list. I mean, that's one of the things that Andy Reid teaches his guys to do, is to have their list of who their coaching staff would be, and they, in their interviews, to have their 500-page binder about how they're going to be organize everything, and detailing, practices and what time they're going to be weightlifting and all of these things. But also in there is, all right, you hire me, here's my first calls for each one of these jobs. I know he's got in mind who that would be. He just never told us. So I don't know who he would come in. But to me, that's a little bit of like, to me, I think Minnesota defensively is ready to win. And EB would certainly be a switch from Zimmer, I think, in that sense. As far as the offensive concept would go, I mean, I think they're totally different in that regard. It's just, how do you balance out that? And yeah, I mean, you might very well be developing a new quarterback there too. So that's a wrinkle to throw into it. But I do. I mean, even if it's been a coach like a Mike Zimmer, I still think that Eric Bieniemy has just got some leadership qualities and and charisma as a coach that a lot of guys just don't have. And maybe that doesn't translate into a head coach. Maybe he's destined to be one of the league's best running back coaches and a really good offensive coordinator. But I still really want to see what he can do.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams are as well. And if that does happen, what does it leave this team with? Where are they right now? How they can prepare for that? We're going to get to that right after this. Hey, Chiefs fans, want to let you know about an incredible app that everybody who drives or buys gas all by itself needs to know about. It's called Get Upside. Our listeners right now, you get 25 cents off of every gallon that you buy once you sign up with Get Upside. Then on top of it, they're offering right now, with a promo code of touchdown, an extra 25 cents, a bonus that you get back. That's 50 cents cash back on every gallon of gas that you buy in your first tank with the Get Upside app. There's a lot of people that drive around and put a lot of miles and a lot of gallons into their vehicles, and they're making a lot of cash back on this. All you have to do to become one of them is to sign up, get that app, Get Upside, and use the promo code touchdown. Then you can get all your rewards back through your bank account, PayPal, or e-card, whatever you would like. Go over there, get the Get Upside app, and use that promo code touchdown. BetOnline is here to wish you a good start to this next betting season for the NFL playoffs on through March Madness and everything beyond. It's the number one spot for you to get all your sports wagering action going in 2022. The new year, a new desktop, you can get that same bonus. Sign up now, you get 50% on top of your deposit. All you got to do is use the promo code Locked On. Super easy. You can bet every major sport and even some of the ones you don't recognize, particularly football, for right now. Take all the advantage of all these amazing offers in 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. So a lot of talk about EB. Obviously, I think Steve Spagnuolo, it's been an up and down season for him. I actually don't feel like the last 2 weeks have soured the league on Spag's performance. I think he could get some interest maybe a little bit farther down the line. But for both of your coordinators having interest, whatever, maybe Kafka has some as well, what does that do to preparation in terms of tweaking the game plan this week? I think EB has it better because he has Andy who's going to be all over that in the first place. So is it a distraction, or for this team, are they able to buckle down, focus on the Steelers, and just go looking to repeat what they did 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the NFL's liberalized the rules a little bit, to let coaches interview a little bit more. The interesting thing is that we just didn't get a lot of indication that was happening, the last week or two when it was a possibility. Then again, there weren't that many jobs available yet. So, I mean, Jacksonville was really the only one that was out there. But I don't know. To me, I don't know if it is that much of a distraction or issue or anything, because I think, if anything, I think it's just an excuse afterwards. I mean, we've seen it every year. I mean, coaches interview, assistants interview other places, and some teams win and some teams don't. And I think it's easy to blame that on, coaches having their minds distracted when they lose. But, with EB's case, I don't see it being a distraction, because remember, the leader of the offense is Andy Reid. So not having he be there, hey, certainly it's not having a guy in your room and having a voice there, and hey, maybe there's some things that change organizationally and some duties change if he is doing some interviews. Now, one of the things with the liberalized rules is that there's a lot more Zoom interviews for these coaches than actually going and talking to anybody. So that those things change a little bit. But to me, I don't think that it's that much of a distraction. And certainly I think the Chiefs are going to have a lot of interest in the front office. And I don't think it's going to be, that's an issue either.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that myself. Skipping over that and going to where Andy is in terms of putting this game plan together. Did you have any specific takeaways from his Monday presser that you thought really hit home, or is it straight on to we're going to do X, Y, and Z and not give too much away?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that there's just about not giving up too much away or anything. Yeah, I mean, there wasn't anything. I mean, to me, really the biggest things that I think that Andy really hit on Monday was really just about the injury situation. And I think that at least he's projecting confidence as far as that goes. But with everything else, no, I mean, I think it's on to Pittsburgh for Andy and the coaching staff. And and it certainly helps that they're facing an opponent that they've already faced. I mean, they were starting to work on Pittsburgh early Sunday afternoon, stopped during the Chargers and Raiders game wisely, just in case they had to change gears. But other than that, it's been straight on to Pittsburgh since then.
So that said, not much can change in a couple of weeks here. So other than the injury situation, do you think that there's adaptation that has to come? This is still a professional team that earned their way in through their play to the playoffs. So I don't want to let us overlook them, but yes, the result didn't really give much confidence to Pittsburgh putting up much of a fight. What do you think has to be, on the warning list for this team against the Steelers?
To me, I mean, the really only concerns are on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, that's just the one thing that you have to worry about. I mean, the Steelers can get after the quarterback. I mean, and when you hit the quarterback, bad things can happen. And that's one thing that they didn't do much against Mahomes the last time around, which is one of the reasons why the Chiefs offense had their way with Pittsburgh back in week 16. I still think it's going to be the same way, but, I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, talking to Andy Reid yesterday, I mean, TJ Watt's where it all worries. I mean, that's the entire focus, and that's the one guy that you have to worry about.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought going away. Not to preview Friday's show, folks, but we'll tell you what you ought to be worried about. I hear a lot of rumblings about, can Pittsburgh take away what Jamar Chase did? The answer is no, by the way, folks. There's only one Jamar Chase. But you have some talented guys in Claypool and Johnson. Do you think that there are certain deficiencies they might try to exploit that they saw on film against the Bengals, and whether it's miraculous catches or not?
Oh, that's the thing. I mean, they can look at all the film that they want to about the Chiefs' weaknesses. Problem is that what you got to either to attack the Chiefs' weaknesses from the last couple of weeks, you got to do one of two things. You either have to have an offensive line that's going to pave some holes for your running backs to cut through and get into the secondary and break off some big runs, or you need a quarterback that can throw the ball 30 yards downfield. And I don't think the Steelers have either one of those things. They certainly don't have the quarterback. And you look at Big Ben's passing charts, over the last half of the season and even the last special a couple of weeks, it's all short passes. It's all getting rid of the ball quickly. And if he doesn't do that, bad things happen. And he's got some receivers that are certainly talented, but love to drop the football. I mean, to me, and you look at it, I mean, the Steelers have only scored more than 28 points twice all season. And we know if you don't score 28 or more points against the Chiefs, you don't win. So to me, I mean, this is the absolute dream opponent for the Chiefs in the wild card round, because it's one to which the matchup is just so lopsided in their favor. Any of the other teams that are in the playoffs this year would be a much more difficult matchup. And honestly, I mean, I think the Steelers would have a better chance against some other teams that are in the playoffs. Against the Chiefs, this is just that complete and total mismatch. Fight, styles make fights. This is not going to be much of a fight because of the styles of both these teams.
Gotcha. That said, the one thing to watch out, we agree, is TJ Watt. Do they need to double him? Do they need to keep a tight end? Is Blake Bell, is his assignment basically to crunch TJ Watt every play and then worry about what he's supposed to do?
Andy Heck's line schemes have just been so, not built around that this year. I mean, they really have been trusting their tackles to block guys one-on-one and not get a lot of help, whether it's, from tight ends or running backs. I still think that, especially on the right side, you can use some help. I mean, Andrew, I think, could use a little help, some chipping here and there. But that's just something the Chiefs have not done a lot of this year. So I don't expect them to necessarily switch it up and suddenly do a bunch of it. What's the guy you do have to counter for? I mean, that's absolutely. I mean, and I think that the Chiefs' offensive game plan, I mean, threat 1, 2, and 3 is going to be figuring out how to scheme around him. But I think you're going to be focused on just how they can do that with 5 up front and not be bringing in extra help.
Okay. Well, they're going to live diet and buy diet. Let's see what happens. Are you feeling pretty optimistic overall?
Yeah, I mean, I've given every clue so far that I just don't. I mean, I think the spread on this game is what did we say, 12 points, give or take, where you're at. That's about right. And honestly, I think that the Chiefs might cover that fairly comfortably. I mean, we'll see. I mean, beat them last time by 26. So I just don't see I don't see the Steelers, barring the Chiefs going back to the offensive woes that they had early in the season when they turned the football over a lot. Barring that, the Steelers aren't going to pose much of a threat. So maybe I am completely overconfident in this team, but no, I mean, this should, I think, be a comfortable Chiefs win.
Folks, you heard it here first. Check out everything at ChiefsDigest.com for more of that information. Matt, thanks for the time. As always.
Always great, Ryan. Take care, my friend.
Yep. Hey, y'all have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.